Okay, so we start with our panel 1 now. I'm very happy to welcome you all to this panel session, which is going to start now. With panel 1, we are setting somehow the scene for the upcoming panels. So our panelists and we will have more general introduction, I would say, to the topic of gender equality plans and sustainability. And in the other panels, it will be a bit more specific than topic-wise. Our panel title is Achieving Structural and Sustainable Change, Gender Equality in Research Organizations and Society. And I'm very delighted to be joined today here on stage, even though it's not a visible stage, by Florence Degavre and Maxime Forest. And they will share their experiences and expertise also related to gender equality with us. Before we then, in the beginning, afterwards, we will hear some practical examples from the implementing partners of LeTSGEPs and CALIPER. And afterwards, we will have a short Q&A session. So in case there are any questions from your side, you're open and welcome to take the floor also. So I'd like to introduce first my two panelists here in the front. So Florence Degavre, she's a socioeconomist and professor. And since 2022, she's advisor to the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Policy at the Université Catholique de Louvain. I don't speak French, so I hope that works out. So her teaching focuses on socioeconomics and gender studies. Florence's academic career is an exploration of the dynamics of social innovation in long-term care across Europe. Her research focuses on public policies, organizations and people who provide care, and draws on feminist and social economy theories. This approach stems from her own experiences and interests, from her care work to her involvement in feminist associations. She is particularly interested in understanding how organizations in the social economy, or more generally, those that claim to have a societal mission, challenge existing economic structures, thereby bringing about significant societal change. Florence's work is deeply rooted in empirical research, and she's committed to using transdisciplinary methods, often working closely with people in the field. Florence's commitment to gender equality, social innovation, diversity, and inclusion is a powerful driver of her work. So welcome.
Thank you.
And then we have here in the middle, Maxime Forest. He is a senior researcher, associate and senior lecturer at Sciences Po, Paris University. His research interests covers the Europeanization of gender and anti-discrimination policies, gender and illiberalism in Central and Eastern Europe, and gendering research and innovation. He has been involved as scientific coordinator, principal investigator and research senior expert in a dozen of EU-funded projects aimed at supporting universities and research organizations to implement gender equality plans. So also a couple of our sister projects, for instance, Egera, Supera, Gearing Roads, GECO, etc. And he's currently also the principal investigator and evaluator of the RESET project. He served 2 terms as executive member of the French High Council for Gender Equality and as an international jury member for the UNESCO Prize for Girls and Women's Education. He's also regularly providing expertise to the European Institute for Gender Equality, the European Commission, and the French Development Agency. Welcome, Maxime. So my first question is directed to Florence, and we have already heard now in the introduction that care is one of your research-related keywords. So organizations nowadays also have a responsibility towards their members. In this context, the term caring organization is also used. How do you see gender equality embedded in this concept, and how can it be ensured that caring and inclusive organizations is more than policies, programs, and headcounts?
Thank you very much for your question, and also I wanted to thank the organizers to have invited me. I don't think my university is a real role model though we are trying to do our best to implement a JEP that is ambitious and that fully provides the requirements of a JEP. So yes, about care, I am committed to research on care, and I maybe just want to remind of two definitions that I like in terms of care. The one of Barnes and Taher, who is on care that includes activities, affective attitudes, and ethical values, joining bodies, subjectivities, policies, and materials in everyday life. And in this definition, care is about really the daily life activities and ties binding people together that are able to cultivate one's moral dispositions for the sense of justice and integrity. And this definition, as well as some other definitions, bring really care beyond the private sphere into the professional arena. I also am inspired in my work by another definition, or at least a critical definition of Heike Drootboom, who says that we have to push care beyond repair and consider care also as a driving force for transformation, not only for repairing things, but also take the transformational dimension of care through notions of development, progress, and improvement. And in the context of gender equality plan, care is a value, I think, and a good way to say that the institution is responding to problems that tend to be invisibilized or neglected by the traditional masculine performance culture in universities. JEP, as well as the EDI approach, in which we are now at UC Louvain, is a way to recognize that certain categories need care more than others in order to be full participants and to perform. So care is a very inspiring value for JEP. And it is really JEP is really the ideal place to root care in an organization, I think. And as you told me, Jennifer, of course, it's about it's not only about headcounts, policy, and programs, although headcounts and policies and programs count a lot in JEP, but also implementing a climate of care is really important. Recognize, for example, publicly at all levels of the university that the perception of being treated in an equal way is one of the major dimensions of well-being for workers. It's also about a climate of care. It's also about challenging the models that tend to favor Western cultural and masculine ways of thinking, and also recognizing that these are not really useful or not as useful as we would like them to be when we are operating in changing and very turbulent environments as we now do. It's also about accepting that giving importance to care, bonding, acceptance, equity, diversity, etc., is not contradictory with performance and rigor. It's also to put integrity in research as a central issue, and not only in research methods, but also in creating knowledge, in human relationship development. That's both important. And also, and finally, ensuring that structures and places of decision concerning JEP are properly embedded in the university structures. I think that one care question is also, where will our EDI bureau or council or cell be in the university? Will it be in a place where there is power and where there is decision and money, of course? And it's also about attitudes, care enhancing interventions at the more individual level. I think one of the most important message that we are trying to pass in our university is that, of course, there will be, and we hope that there will be an EDI or a JEP at the very, and there is one, but I mean, that is inscribed in the structures of the university. But at the very individual level, we also need to have this inclusive and caring attitude the responsibility is not only at the JEP, it's also ours. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that was very inspiring to see how broad the care term really is, and not to see it only as one task of the JEP, which is, you know, tackling family care, work-life balance issues or so, but really to see it as an umbrella for caring of the organization and its members in general.
Yeah, we used to say that gender equality is really a care work for the university. We consider ourselves as care workers in some way.
Thank you, Florence. We move on now for my next question is dedicated to Maxime. And yeah, for many organizations, also for the organizations and representatives who are here today, a JEP project and the participation in a JEP project is a first step towards the institutionalization of gender equality policies in general. So according to the cause of the proposal, these gender equality policies should be accompanied by institutional change. So the funded projects can be somehow a catalyst for this, offering opportunities as well as challenges. But also in addition, the sustainability of gender equality policies after the end of the project funding should be considered already from the outset. Based on your experiences as evaluator and also a consultant in a number of gender equality projects, what are the preconditions for this success?
Maybe to frame my answer, I should also specify on the top of the long bio that you shared earlier,
yes,
that many of the projects you mentioned I've been involved in as a gender trainer and expert for Yellow Window, an external consultancy, for instance, the UNICEF project that concluded over the past 2 days in Namur. And actually, it's a combination of this prospect as a gender scholar, a political scientist, occasionally a policymaker at a more national institutional or European institutional level, and a consultant that kind of frame my potential and tentative answer to this broad question. If I would answer just as a gender scholar interested in gender mainstreaming, functioning and institutionalization, I would say the same as usual. You know, top leadership support, resources made available, either the one of a project or preferably long-term ones from the institution or from the national or regional level, participation, stakeholders involvement through innovative ways, participatory methods, and so on and so on. And all of that certainly are impact drivers. Or can be considered as such for a gender equality plan to truly make an impact, and they might be considered as well some sort of basic preconditions for potential success. But what makes the difference between those preconditions for potential success and actual success? It's something different, I think. And I think here, being a practitioner gives you more hints about it. I believe, and we certainly all have in this room different sort of experience to that regard, that the fundamental precondition is to engage knowingly into JEP design, making and implementation as engaging into a political process. Whether this is your nature to be political or not, whether this is your background to know about institutional politics or not, whether you have leverage and power or you don't have much within your institution, it doesn't change a thing. This is what you're going to do. Because this is politically that you will negotiate resources that will sustain institutionalization in the long run after the project is over. It is through this political process that you will trigger, secure, maintain possibly for a while the top leadership commitment, knowing that top leaders are more easily distracted than any teenager in front of a screen. They jump from one priority to another, and this lack of consistency is something we have all to struggle with. If we bet everything on top leadership support because we have it at the beginning, because they sign off a paper or like committing to a project or attended a couple of events, we are nearly bound to fail, because it is unlikely that over a 3 or 4 years time at the time of a JEP project, for instance, or a JEP cycle. They will still be in place, still really willing so much to support. So we need to look at a broader set of windows of opportunities within the institution and outside the institution, regionally or nationally or even on European scales, for instance, through participating in European Universities Alliance, which are a great potential lever for change, to make sure that we use as much of those windows of opportunities for change as we can. And this requires a lot of insights, knowledge about how a university or research organization actually work. Usually we do not know in which type of processes our university are engaged, at least as a scholar we don't know, or lecturer or professor. We have a very tiny fraction of knowledge about the institution. So gathering the knowledge, asking to those who know what is going on right now, I think it's really a true precondition. And I believe that we are moving forward as a community of practice of European funded project on gender equality, because we have been increasingly conscious about it, knowledgeable about it, and I think LeTSGEP and CALIPER, and we would see also through the practice, give evidence that they knew it was a political endeavor, but that for me is a key precondition.
Yeah, thank you very much. I especially liked also in the beginning when you pointed out that the people who are involved, they were suddenly involved in politics. And I think that's something which happened to a lot of people involved in structural change projects. So they are committed to gender equality, and suddenly they find themselves in a new position due to the project, and to also to, really to adapt to this new role and to this new environment, and to be visible in the institution as a change agent can also be really a challenge, and sometimes it's really underestimated also partly what it takes personally to pursue this path then in your institution and in your organization. And I think that's a good, good combination to you now, Florence, because your home organization, UCL Louvain, is fully engaged in the promotion of equality. And in 2015, the first gender equality plan was adopted. In September 2019, the director appointed you as
my colleague.
Your colleague. Oh, it wasn't you. Sorry.
For 1 year.
For 1 year. Okay. So, but
there
was the first time the position as advisor for gender equality and inclusion in 2019, and within the framework now of your mandate, you're currently redesigning your gender equality plan embedded in the gender inclusion and diversity policy of the university. And you're now going to tell us a bit more about this process.
I just want to say that what Maxime says really resonates with my own experience. A political work and also power relation and power forces. How to win is the question on that sense. So yeah, my university, as you said, started the gender equality measures a long time ago. Quite difficult. Was quite difficult. We mentioned the feminist movements. They were very important in getting UCL on the gender track and the equality tracks. We are now in another era. We are going to. Thank you. We are now going to an EDI approach, which is equity, diversity, and inclusion approach, taking other dimensions into account, like racism, ableism, homophobia, and not only sexism. Why? Well, there were a series of reports that were asked by our rector in the last years, namely also on racism and the need for decolonizing research and teaching, which led to our nomination. My colleague Sylvie Sarolea, which is a jurist and a specialist of migration, and myself. And we started to work so exactly 1 year ago to implement this EDI approach additionally to the JEP. It was not easy for us because, as Maxime said, we didn't know our institution on a bureaucratic and administrative level. So we had to start the work from scratch on that Voilà. Okay, sorry. Okay. So I just put some. We read a lot, and we went to websites of other universities a lot. Of course, on the European Commission as well. These are some of our inspirations. Very broad and very different, very practical and very philosophical. But I want to go to this here. Yeah, which is our plan. How did we do that? Well, first we felt the need for explaining why we wanted to change our paradigm to EDI. And that was not very difficult because there were cases of racism that had been coming out. There were discrimination that were reported, and it was quite easy for us, at least, and for the rector to switch to an EDI approach. He was convinced, and he asked us really explicitly. But also what has been a very powerful influence is the fact that our university is in a lot of alliances, Circle U, CSAR, a lot of cost actions at a high level, which already had this EDI approach. So it was something that was known. So there were pushing from outside, reasons from outside university, but also from within. Then we started our work, and I think this is something very familiar to you, of diagnostic and monitoring. So we each year, the University of Louvain, as is compulsory for many universities, we publish State of Equality, but which is only on gender, men and women inequalities. And we started work with our statistics service, analysis and statistics service, which we didn't know before because we had not worked with them. We asked them and we convinced them to do some other statistics, to go into data, etc., on the origin, socioeconomic origin, proxies. I'm now very good in those things, I wasn't. And we published statistics on diversity and inclusion to show that there was a problem, because we knew there were problems qualitatively, but quantitatively we had no clue about how we performed. So this was a very big work, and also we conducted more than, actually it is 180 interviews within the whole structure in 1 year with individuals or groups. And then there we met people who had already a very high conscience of EDI problems, but they didn't formulate it in terms of EDI. For example, the service that helped disabled students, the service access to university for international students. And actually we said, okay, we don't have to make a revolution here. There are a lot of people already doing the EDI work. We have to gather them and to work on visions together. So going to now the column on the right, there were two main, how do you say chantier? I don't remember in English. Works in progress that we started. The first one was to reinforce, well, three actually, reinforce what already exists, saying that in a service from access to university or things like that, that you do it right, we are going to help you do better. Also implement measures. There was a gender equality plan, but we added measure on diversity and inclusion, and we also revised what was on gender equality. And then, and I must say that is one of the most difficult work that we have now, is to transform the structures of governance of our university. We know now that nothing will happen, or nothing very ambitious will happen, if we don't have a place in the university called Bureau EDI, where there is a vice rector, where there are counselors, where there is staff, or the management, where the gender equality plan is monitored, and where the vision is, the strategic vision is thought of. We are now 2 counselors with some hours, teaching hours less. We really need people that are in the place and that are piloting and that are there as a vigilance and also as making coherence among all the initiatives. And just the last one picture, if I may, we organized in order to implement our work. No, it's another. Sorry, sorry. This is a very big event we organized 1 month ago. It was called the États généraux Équité, Diversité, Inclusion, because we wanted to share our vision and that what we had learned in 1 year. During 1 week, we had 1,200 participants to all the, not every day, but on the week. We organized a workshop on breaking the silence with people witnessing about their own condition. And I think it was one of the biggest, really most impressive moments that you can see here on the left. People that experience disability, racism, need for help, etc., who had been briefed during the whole year on analyzing their own situation, which of course they had already done, but daring to share it with an audience. And this was a very important moment. And also the rector was there, and the empty chair is just to say that our pedagogy was, okay, when you come to these États généraux, please think of who is not there. It's a bit like the chairs from this morning. Who is not there, who should be there, who has been excluded. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. No, that was very interesting, and I think it really resonates with most of the participants here. So to see all this practical insight from you and your approach, and also already the connection to one of the next panels on intersectionality, and also to the next question, which is directed to Maxime again. So as we already mentioned, you have a really a lot of experience, and you pointed it out yourself also in the area of the monitoring and evaluation also of gender equality plans. And this is of course one core task also in the gender equality projects, but also for the people on site then. So after the project had ended, of course, the monitoring and evaluation has to go on. So often it is seen as an additional burden for those responsible for the implementation, may it be due to limited resources, a lack of practical knowledge, or the fact that they are so committed and convinced and do not want to critically engage themselves with the implementation process. Also that happens. So what recommendations and potential pitfalls can you share with the audience? And why can monitoring and evaluation be considered as a really essential part of sustainability related to gender equality policies?
Before to get to that important question, and also because it's related, and it's a chance to be invited to final conferences of projects, especially when you have such a numerous audience. It's the occasion, the opportunity to tell or to discuss a few unspoken truths. So one unspoken truth I would like to mention, and which is related to what Florence just told about. Is that even in those youth-funded projects, the gender equality plan of the project, impulsed by the project, is often not the only gender equality or diversity game in town, meaning that there are many other initiatives led by the university / the research organization in relation to its national or international commitments and relation in this area. And again, this is potentially a window of opportunity. Of course, you can make your youth-funded project and JEP instrumental to the broader diversity, equality, and transformation agenda of the university, and you should do so, I believe. You should really connect to what is being done elsewhere, and it works both ways. You provide impulse for innovation, participation, more comprehensive approach, potentially intersectional lens. I say potentially because that's often missing, to be honest, other unspoken truths, but that's for another panel. And you can provide resources but you should also take ownership over what the others are doing within the organization. That's why it's important to know what they are doing in the first place, so that you can integrate that, for instance, into your monitoring framework. And I get to the second unspoken truth that you kind of formulated already in your question, which is that often we launch actions, we design actions, and we implement actions as part of our gender equality plans without knowing clearly which type of change we intend to produce, and even less so, how that change will happen at all. So we do something that is somehow related to a process of change, but this connection is not firmly established in more often than not, and more often than not, we do not know how it's supposed to happen, that there is no logical connection between what we plan to do and which type of outcome and impact are to be brought. And this is not possible to devise without building a monitoring and evaluation knowledge, practice, and framework, not only for a gender equality plan, but for the whole gender equality and diversity agenda of the organization. So it requires this we know well, at least. We are told to base ourselves on data collection. Yes, but data collection can be an audit that will be repeated maybe once or twice, but which is not permanent. It can be collected once and not institutionalized, not inspiring a data management system with the organization. And without this data, it's difficult to monitor whatever. If the design of the gender equality plan actions is not intended to be properly monitored, it cannot be. It's not a surprise, and it's often the case. As part of the research project, we are trying now to run evaluation experiment based on a randomized experiment with control group and so on. I recently read about gender and development that whatever is quantifiable and measurable is not transformational. Whatever is transformational is hardly measurable. That might be partly true, to be honest, but not really. Sometimes we need to check whether what we do is producing some sort of measurable impact. And we are struggling to find actions in all the JEPs that have been enacted and implemented that are actually available from that perspective. So we have to set up a full experiment outside of the JEP for the sake of measuring impact. So it shows that there is definitely something lacking, and I believe this is our new frontier. It's one of the new frontiers with intersectionality, with full institutionalization, but building a monitoring and evaluation culture and frameworks is also a new frontier. And it's not only at the level of the European project or the individual gender equality plans. It's also a task that the European Commission is well aware of to build also a common monitoring and evaluation framework for the gender equality plan, because as far as we speak, those projects like CALIPER and LeTSGEP, they keep being evaluated along different metrics because there is no common one. There are a few elements. We learn also with external evaluators, project officers, the European Commission, and Anne present here. And Anastasia, we have been learning together on how to properly evaluate this. As evaluating partners, we learn as well, but we have to go beyond this learning process. I think now we have to establish a common but yet flexible metrics for evaluating impact. We have a lot of resources. We have impact drivers model. We have a theory of change framework. We have a lot of things at hand. But we should share that better so that we are not showcasing our successes and failure according to different scales and instruments, because it stays so far quite subjective, this process of evaluation. And we can boast about being extremely performance in deliverable submission and achieving some project KPIs, while to be honest, there is no real process of like profound structural change behind, and the opposite being true. Failing on some KPIs while actually impulsing a proper structural change process. So I think that we should all be embarked into this monitoring and evaluation culture. Not only the evaluators, because they feel alone sometimes into that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that really also resonates with me a lot, of course, in my role here in the project, but also, yeah, to see that in the project frame, of course, the partners have a legitimacy to push the institution and also to push for monitoring and evaluation. But after the 4 or however the duration may be, it becomes more difficult, of course, to keep everything up. And as you said, so to have a culture of monitoring and evaluation also, and to have included gender as one dimension can be really crucial. So we will move now to a bit more practical part. So we have also want to hear the voices of the partners who implemented gender equality plans inside the project. So I will now introduce some of the partners, and they will give from their places a 2 minutes pitch, and therefore I would need one person who is circulating the microphone. Well, it should not be you, but if you volunteer, it would be nice. Yeah. Just your mic, yeah. So we will start with a partner from LeTSGEPs. It's CY University Paris. CY University is a socially oriented institution that values diversity. It's comprised of approximately 26,000 students and 1,200 researchers. CY played a key role in the development of and the implementation of the gender equality plans in LeTSGEPs, and was moreover also responsible for the development and the administration of the gender survey, which was undertaken, which aimed to measure conscious and unconscious biases. And Stefania Macassa is representing CY University and gives us a short information.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, everyone. So I'm the Gender Equality Officer of CY Paris University. And so I have to say that in 2021, when we started designing the Gender Equality Plan, we realized, we know it already, but we realized that some measures were already in place in CY. But those measures were implemented by several offices, several departments, not necessarily that were not necessarily talking to each other. And then, so those measures were mainly on communication about maternity leave possibilities, for example, or gender data collections that were made by very engaged colleagues. But they were not backed by an institutional gender equality plan. And what we realized is that when we decided when we wrote down the gender equality plan and we actually combined together all these measures, and we asked for the approval of the president and all the committees in charge of the governance. Those measures actually gain in visibility, and also so allowed everyone from beyond the staff that were actually implementing them on their side, on their offices, allowed to gain in, as I said, in visibility and also in sustainability. Because they were actually included in a document that was every year approved by the governance. So that's pretty much our experience in very few words, even though it was much more than that, and much tougher than that. But
yeah, thank you very much, Stefania. So, and it also connects very well to what we've discussed before. So to get to know your institution, and suddenly you see, oh, there are already some measures in place which we simply were not aware of, you know. It's really important. So the next comment will be from the Mathematical Institute of the Serbian Academy for Science and Arts, MISANU. It's a national institute of the Republic of Serbia with 3 scientific departments and 4 research centers. In LeTSGEPs, they designed and adopted their first gender equality plan that impacted gender budgeting, internal legislation, regular training and support of their staff, and promotion of women in science. And Maria Shegan Radonjic, we never use our second names, that's the problem. So is now telling us a bit more.
Thank you, Jennifer, for this opportunity to share with you one of the examples of the Mathematical Institute. That is in some way related to what Florence and Maxime pointed out about the political power. In our case, we made sure to have necessary political will and to introduce an impactful gender equality plan, thanks to the commitment of our director and together with the commitment of the members of the managing board, since they have real power to initiate and, let's say, execute structural changes within the institute. For example, with their full support, we could, for example, increase the number of female members in governing and administrative bodies, especially since that procedure was complex, requiring the involvement not only of the Serbian Academy of Sciences, but also the involvement of the Serbian Ministry of Science. So, for example, after several of our attempts, the Ministry of Science finally appointed a woman as their representatives in our managing board. This is the first time that we have the woman appointed by the Ministry of Science. Also, the coordinated efforts were necessary to establish our first gender equality officer. So in conclusion, we find that collaboration and dialogue with those who have real power to create and execute structural changes can help in identifying some obstacles, identifying some barriers and overcoming them. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Maria. And right beside you, we have Risata Peri. She is the representative of the University of Tirana. That's the biggest state university in Albania. So the first JEP for the University of Tirana was approved in May 2021, followed by the second one in June 2020. Based on that thorough gender context analysis and active stakeholder engagement, these JEPs address the important gender equality issues such as raising awareness, fostering gender balance in leadership, collecting gender biased data, gender disaggregated data, promoting gender analysis in the research and teaching, as well as changing the organizational structure and culture.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you to the keynote speakers. I was very much inspired by what you shared. I'm very honored to present my team, University of Tirana from Albania. So we joined LeTSGEPs as beginners. We didn't have any idea about the JEPs whatsoever. So you can, let's say, picture the landscape and the context. So what really we are finalizing after 4 years is that after having our first JEP and then our second JEP in progress right now, we were able to implement gender dimensions in several important strategic documents in our university. So we implemented gender dimension indices in the strategy of the University of Tirana, covering from 2023 to 2028. And then in the teaching and also in the training strategy of University of Tirana from 2022 to 2027. So we are hopefully guaranteeing the sustainable advancement of our recent JEP. We're supposed to be finalized in 2024. On top of that, what my team is really very proud of is that we could lead and we could support and mentor 8 other universities in Albania to implement their first JEPs in 2023. So it started from University of Tirana, being part of LeTSGEPs project. And right now, after 4 years, we have our second JEP, hopefully to be sustainable by including these measures in our strategies and also collaborating with 8 other universities. So we are really very proud of that. One take-home message, and this is very beautifully written by my colleague, so I'm going to read that so I don't miss a word. What we witnessed, and we can really certify that, formalized gender-responsive strategies and regulations lead to structural change that ensures sustainable progression of gender mainstreaming within the institution, and we witnessed that. But that will also create a domino effect for all other universities and RPOs in the country. We involved them in our trainings and in our events. They were inspired, they asked, and thankfully to the LeTSGEPs and our partners as well, we could help them to implement their own JEPs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Risata. Yes, and the last practical example comes from the CALIPER consortium. So it's from Yaza University in Turkey. And Yaza University is a very young university. It was only established in 2001 and has become quickly an ideal environment for research, personal development and learning. It's consisting out of 9 faculties, 2 graduate schools, a vocational school, a European research center, 1 open and distance learning center, knowledge and technology transfer office, and 1 continuing education center. In the CALIPER project, Yaza University designed and implemented a gender equality plan to create a ripple effect of change within the university in terms of fostering gender equality in recruitment, working conditions, and career development of women and in elimination of any existing gender biases. And Gökay Özerim is now representing the Yaza University.
Dear Jennifer, thank you so much, and thanks to all speakers in this panel. My name is Gökay Özerim. I'm the head of department in the Department of International Relations at Yaşar University, and also we have a Jean Monnet Center of Excellence on Diversity. I have been coordinating this center, and actually when we learned that CALIPER project was accepted by the European Commission, we just felt happiness, and next day an anxiety how to make so much changes at institutional level. And after 4 years, again we have an anxiety to make it sustainable, but fortunately this time we have some concrete results which can guarantee the sustainability. So what we have done as a first step in this project, one of our speakers very wisely told that top-level administration's priorities can change. So we were very sure about this fact. Even their seats can change within 4 years and later on. So we succeeded to add gender as a priority into the strategic document of the university for research level, but also for the administrative processes. And up until 2025, this strategic priority will continue, and after then, hopefully. And as the next step, a new unit established as a research center on gender studies at our university, which is one of the most concrete results of this project at institutional level. And they have been actively developing trainings and seminars. What else? We learned from this project, even we have some progress previously on gender issues at our university, but we need to prove it. And now we are sure that this should be sustainable. So as a result of this awareness, we added gender segregated data collection as an important part of strategic data collection processes at our university. I don't know whether it's the takeaway from here or a takeaway lesson for us, but we learned that in order to make these all processes sustainable at institutional level, we should present all both administrative workers, staff at the university, but also researchers as a broad issue, including gender. So we presented this issue as part of diversity strategies of university. So diversity has become a strategic priority at university level, and our center was labeled as a Jean Monnet Center of Excellence on Diversity starting by last year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gökay. So we are really perfect in time. So there is still some room for questions also, but also if the panelists would like to, comment on the practical examples, you are open and free and welcome to do that now. If not.
Yeah, listening to those case studies, sort of, we see that it's increasingly clear that people know. Engage knowingly into a political process, whether it is about gathering what is being done within the institution to give it a more comprehensive and holistic framework, the one of a true gender equality plan, or it is to negotiate every single step forward without always being able to change structure. So that's quite typical what you did in Serbia to lobby in order for certain position to be filled in a gender sensitive way. You managed to have a gender equality office, which is sustainable, while those bilateral negotiation might not, because you manage once, but what comes next, whether it would be a de facto practice that would be institutionalized because it's cheap to do for institutions without changing their regulatory framework, or whether it would be dropped with the next minister in charge of science or higher education. That's also perhaps a weak point of attention. I had some sort of a question for the partners who share their practice. Gender equality agendas and diversity agendas are under attack in many European countries, west, north, south, east, center, anywhere, although to different extent. And therefore this shape also our windows of opportunities and the type of argument we can bring forward. It's different to be perhaps in Albania with a rather positive Europeanization trend that help you to say, oh, this is a European framework and we have European resources and this is a European project and that goes well. Whether to do it in Turkey or in Serbia, where these arguments might not work that well. And so you have to find others to relate to other broad national strategies or so on. So perhaps you have more experience to share about that. And related to this as well, we craft strategic arguments to support advancing gender equality in research and the academia according to current patterns and power relations. So for instance, for long, in many occasions, we did it in relation to attractiveness and to excellence. Reset is about redesigning scientific excellence together. So it's about changing the content of the definition of scientific excellence to make it more inclusive, but without necessarily challenging the world paradigm, because we believe that most universities will keep wanting to be international, open, competitive. Look at the Netherlands and the debates during the latest election to close many of universities to foreign students or to considerably reduce their participation and engagement in the name of national preference for students and housing and so on. So contexts are changing. How we can adapt to that? That's a question for everyone.
Yeah, that's really a question for everyone. Thank you for that. I just got the sign that I should try to come to an end so that we can move. Sorry, Florence, but I really invite you to also engage with our partners. They were visible now. So is it okay for you if we move on? Thank you. So. Yeah, thank you very much, of course, again, to Florence and Maxime for giving their inputs and also sharing their expertise, also to the implementing partners who shared their stories and a glimpse of the work they did. And yeah, so I hand over now to Maria, who is the moderator of panel number 2. Thank you very much.